We are 74 days away from opening day kickoff with Clemson facing Georgia down in Atlanta. Let's try to pass that time by rewinding back and looking back at last year.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. I am your host, John Bivens. You can find us over on Twitter at I am John Bivens over on X, or at the Tiger Wire over on X as well. Thanks so much for being here on the Locked On Clemson podcast and making it your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. We are part of the amazing Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Here on the Locked On Clemson podcast, you're getting three things. You're getting all sports, you're getting all passion, and you're getting all of the time. And we are bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson athletics. Today is June 18th. We are so excited. Today's going to be a great episode. We're going to spend it by looking back. We watched the entire Clemson-Duke game. We're going to give a recap on that game, and we're also going to dive into some Tracking Tuesday segment. We are so grateful for all of our sponsors, including LinkedIn College. Well, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. I am so pumped. I don't know about y'all, but I cannot wait until August 31st this year. We are so excited for that Clemson-Duke game. Can't wait to see what's going to happen. Can't wait to see how that game goes. I really got a good feeling about this year. I think this year is going to be better than last year for sure. We're excited about it. And so we're 74 days away. August 31st feels like so far away, but it's only 74. We're just over 2 months away. We're like 10 weeks and some change away. So we're excited. We wanted to find a way to, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to help have this time pass? And so you know what we decided to do? We decided to go and we watched the entire Duke versus Clemson game, opening game from last year, week 1 matchup. And what we're going to do is from now through the summer, we're going to have these random episodes where we're going to go through and we're going to watch the games, all 12 games from last year. We're going to go back and watch them, and then I'm going to bring them to you, and we're going to talk about what the game showed us. Talk about the highlights, kind of give a recap of what the game said, of what the game had, and then we're going to go through and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what the difference, what the keys were, what the changes needed to happen, where it went wrong, all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to do that for all 12 games. We're excited about it. It's going to be great. Today we're going to start that with our Clemson versus Duke recap from last year. Man, this game had a lot of hype around it. It had so much hype. Y'all have heard, if you remember, looking back, we had a guest star on the podcast a little bit back with Michael Craver over from Duke Blue Central. Sorry, I'm a little choked up. We've got this essential oil going on beside me, and it is strong. It's choking me up, so sorry about that. But we had a guest judge or guest host on the show, Michael Craver from Duke Blue Central. He is a great friend of mine, and he's a huge Duke's Blue Devil sports fan, mainly basketball, but also pulls for him in football. And I remember looking back on that game, there was so much hype, and it kind of felt like Duke had an amazing year for their program in 22-23 season. It was really one that kind of kick-started. It was a game that they were playing better than they had in a while. They had one of the best seasons they had that year. And so coming into last year, Duke had a lot of momentum. Duke was excited. When you look at Duke Football Stadium, a lot of times it doesn't have a lot of fans. But I remember week 1 last year, it was full of people. It had so much fans in the stadium. Cameron Crazies were out there. They were giving basketball energy, which if you know Duke basketball, that's saying something. And I remember that game. It was one that it was a lot of energy surrounding it. Leading up, me and Michael were talking about it a lot, and usually our conversations were all football. They hardly ever were basketball, but they were on football right there. I mean, they're hardly ever football. They usually were basketball. But that game had so much energy going to, and Clemson was in a different spot than Duke. Duke had the energy, best season they had in a long time. Clemson was like, hey, we got to get back to who we are. Got to get back to great quarterback play, get back to who we're called to be and who we're supposed to be as a program. And so that game started off with not great. It did not go well. So Clemson got the ball first. We're just going to walk through these games. Clemson got the ball first, didn't move the ball really well, punted it out. Duke came in, moved the ball really well, got to the red zone, kicked a field goal. Clemson got to their second possession, moved the ball extremely well, kept pushing it, got down close to the red zone, went to kick a field goal, and it was blocked. Looking back, that should have been a sign. Hey, your season's not going to go well in special teams, but we didn't focus on that. But yeah, got our field goal blocked. Great. Duke then moved the ball, kept running the ball, kept passing the ball, moving the ball. Riley Leonard was playing excellent. Got another field goal. Clemson got the ball back, was forced to punt. Again, another third straight punt, but Duke muffled it. Duke muffled the ball. Sorry, not third straight. They missed the field goal. But Duke muffled the ball, and Clemson got it in the red zone. That led to a couple good runs. Cade Klubnik made a couple good plays, and he ended up passing a 2-yard touchdown pass to Will Shipley to put us in the lead 7-6. Duke then came back out, first play of the possession, had a wide open receiver. I don't know what happened, but you could tell the safety dropped down, and it looked like the safety was McCoo, but was supposed to stick with the wide receiver. Instead, he broke in towards the running back, fell for that, and so there was a wide receiver wide open, caught the ball, ran it, got a big gain. And then a couple of plays later, they fumbled the ball, and it prevented them from scoring going into halftime. So they fumbled the ball with like 10 seconds left in the half. Clemson got the ball, and of course we didn't score because it was only 10 seconds. So they tried. They ran a pass play, or they ran a run play. Will Shipley ran for like 20 yards, and then Cade Klubnik got the ball. It had a good pass, 20-yard gain, but didn't score. So we went in halftime down 7-6. After halftime, first possession, they had a couple huge plays. Riley Leonard had a couple great plays, breaking the tackles, great running play, scrambling it, and it ended, the Duke's first possession of the half ended with a Riley Leonard 44-yard touchdown run. 44 yards. Crazy. So they took the lead 13-7 against Clemson. And then Clemson got the ball, started marching, started playing well, pushing the ball forward, pushing it. Had some good runs by Cade and Phil Maffa, but another missed field goal. So now our field goal kicker had 2 attempts and 2 misses. And this one, they called it wide left. It looked like it never got off the ground. Like it barely skimmed over the offensive line. Went left for sure, but never got up. Terrible play. Then Duke got the ball, so we stopped them, forced the punt. Clemson got it, started moving it. Felt like there was some rhythm happening. We're still one possession game. Weren't out of it yet. Got to the red zone, and then Cade and Will Shipley ran a read option play where it looked like Will thought he was keeping the ball. Cade tried to pull it at the last second, fumbled it. Duke got the ball. Duke had it. Forced them to have a 3-and-out again. So, again, our defense stepped up. Clemson got it. Got to the red zone again. And then the second play of the fourth quarter, we had the ball on the 1-yard line. Phil Maffa ran and fumbled the ball. Duke returned the ball deep into their territory on that fumble. So, another fumble, another empty red zone opportunity. Duke capitalized on that possession, scoring a touchdown, got the 2-point conversion, went up 21-7. Clemson got the ball again. Started getting in rhythm, having some completions. Cade Klubnik was starting to look for it. 4th and 7 play came, and this is the play that I remember the most from this past year, and it was really the one that I was like, okay, we got to be worried about Cade Klubnik this year. 4th and 7, Cade gets it, no receivers open, so he scrambles out. He goes to slide to prevent contact, which great, good for doing that, but he slides 1 yard short of the first down. After he slid, he got hit by a Duke defender. Flag came out, so it's 4th and 7. Technically, he slid down, so it's turnover and downs, but then the unsportsmanlike conduct came in. So everyone was saying, it should be Clemson ball at 15 yards. The refs came out and said, because he slid and was down, the end of the play happened. The unsportsmanlike conduct happened after the end of the play. Then the turnover on down stands. Duke loses 15 yards. So that was a big upset, big hurt there. Anyway, Duke got the ball. We stopped him. Next possession, Cade had it through a bad pass behind Will Shipley while he was running across the middle. Hit Will Shipley's hands, but he really couldn't catch it. Duke caught it, picked it off. Duke scored on a long run right there by Jordan Waters, take a 28-7 lead. Next possession, Clemson fumbled it. Cade Klubnik had another fumble, but returned it, recovered it, and then overall we ended up losing the game 28-7. Rough game. We're going to take a quick ad break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what we really saw, what were some keys, what were some big moments from this game that we truly saw. So we'll be back in just a moment. When you're hiring small businesses, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I've been a part of LinkedIn Jobs 2 different ways, one by an employer and one by an employee. As an employee looking for a job, it was smooth. I felt like I got responses from employers. As an employer, though, we found the right candidates immediately. It made it so much more smooth. LinkedIn isn't just a job board though, and that's why I love it. LinkedIn helps you find professionals that you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, they're still on LinkedIn and they might be open to the perfect role if something comes along. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire a professional like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. Again, I'm your host, John Bivens. We're going to continue talking about the keys to the game, but in our third segment today, we're going to dive into our Tracking Tuesday as we talk about some big recruits that are happening. But yeah, overall, this game was ugly to watch. I remember watching it, and I told my wife, she started the game with me. Unfortunately, she can't stay up late. She just doesn't have that bone in her body. So I remember I was talking with her about it, and early on, I told her, I was like, this feels like a game we're going to lose. This doesn't feel great. I don't feel great about this game. And unfortunately, I was right. What I want to go through now is I want to go through and talk about some stats and then talk about some big things we got from the game. Overall stats, Cade Klubnik, he didn't have a terrible game statistically wise, but he kind of did. But he went through, and what he did was he had a total. He went 27 for 43 with 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Rushing the ball, Will Shipley led us with 17 carries, 114 yards. Phil Maffa, 11 carries, 65 yards. Cade Klubnik, 12 carries, 34 yards. Receiving, our top receivers, we had 2 receivers with over 50 yards, but that's over 50, nowhere near 100. Antonio Williams had 7 receptions for 56 yards. Bo Collins had 5 receptions for 50 yards. Will Shipley did have 6 receptions, only 29 yards. So our longest catch of the day was Tyler Brown, who had 2 receptions for 21 yards, with one of them going for 21 yards, the other no gain. So overall, no big stats there. Had 2 people recover fumbles with Andrew Makuba, Wade Woodaz. Yeah, that's pretty much how Clemson's stats was. Nothing to really shine the board. Nothing that really is like, that's terrible. Riley Leonard had a day, though. He went 17 for 33, 175 yards total, had a 91 QBR. Carries, Riley Leonard led the team, had 8 carries for 98 yards. Jordan Waters, 11 for 63. Both of them had a touchdown on the ground. Jaquez Moore, 8 rushes for 43 yards, also had a touchdown on the ground. Receiving, their leading receiver had 46 yards with Jordan Water with 3 receptions. Jalen Calhoun had 5 receptions for 32 yards. Their longest of the day was the Jaquez Moore, that 1 reception for 28 yards. They also had 2 fumbles, that 2 were lost. One was Jeremiah Ludis, one was Jalen Stinson. That was it. So those are the stats. Now I want to go through and I want to talk about some big keys. What are some keys to the games that we saw this? You see, last year watching this game, we weren't leading this podcast. We weren't hosting this podcast at the time. But I remember going through, we were writing for the Tiger Wire. We were a part of the media credential crew. So I remember going through, and there were some big things that stuck out. And there were some big things that I was like, okay, these might be something to watch as we move forward in the season. Some of the big things we got was on the defensive side, we did see some mistakes. We saw there was plenty of moments where there was poor open field tackles. There would be opportunities where 1 or 2 Clemson defenders had a wide open guy with the ball and they just couldn't make the tackle. They get juked out. They would get messed up with their ankles. The guy would break a tackle and push him off with a stiff arm. And we're not just talking about running backs and receivers. Riley Leonard had some plays that make our defenders look silly. I mean, Riley Leonard truly embarrassed us. But then we also had some times where there was poor angles on tackles where a running back, Jordan Waters would break out, Riley Leonard would break out, a receiver would catch a ball, and they would just go and they would take these like weird angles where they would end up being 5 yards behind where the receiver is when they caught up to him, or where Riley Leonard was when they caught up to him, because they had terrible angles. And the other time was poor coverage. We talked about the one when we were going through the game. There was just a couple instances where it felt like our coverage just broke down. It felt like our coverage just, I don't know what they were doing. So there was those moments. There's where our defensive mistakes were. Offensive side, man. Our offensive game all last year, but especially this Duke game, still gives me nightmares. We had 3 empty red zone trips. It could have been a fourth. We missed a field goal on like the 25-yard line. So we pretty much had 4 empty red zone trips. We had multiple fumbles. Will Shipley was credited with 1. Cade Klubnik had 1 or 2. Phil Maffa had 1. A lot of fumbles and in bad times. We had special teams. He had 1 field goal last year, and it was our extra point in that opening day. He made the extra point after the touchdown. He missed 2 very easy field goals. One was blocked, but it was blocked by him. It wasn't blocked by our offensive line. He kicked it low. He kicked it flat. The second one, he kicked it low and way left, so he also missed it there too. So special teams was hurt. Turnovers overall. We talked about the fumbles. We also talked about Cade had an interception in a crucial part of the time. Clemson defense or overall offense had some poor decisions. The defensive mistakes, I'm going to chop it up to 2 things. I'm going to chop the defensive side to number 1. A lot early on, some of their mistakes were just first week mistakes. Every single team, I don't care who you are. There's going to be some in Clemson and Georgia this year by both sides. There's first week mistakes to start off a year. That happens. The second thing I'm going to chop it up to is they had to be exhausted. Due to Clemson's offense and turnovers and all that, Clemson defense had to be on the field a lot, and that had to lead to a lot of the problems that there was. When you're on the field as much as they were, you're going to give up 28 points. That's going to happen. Overall, our biggest worry from this game, and it continued throughout the year, was our offense. Our defense kept us in this game. Even with the ugly first half, we still went into halftime with a lead. It wasn't until late in the fourth quarter when the game was out of hand. Our defense stuck in it. They kept us in this game. Clemson would turn it over, we'd stop them. Clemson would miss a field goal, we'd stop them. Clemson would turn it over again, we'd stop them. Right? Our offense kept having mistakes, but our defense just kept letting them be in the game, kept letting them stick around, wouldn't move on. So overall, I definitely chopped that game up to our poor offense. And that's hard to hear because it was Garrett Riley's first game. It was supposed to be this breakout game with this great new quarterback who was going to do well. Two absolutely fantastic running backs. One's already in the NFL. One is going to be in the NFL after this year with Phil Maffa. So that was hard to watch, and it was worrisome for the rest of the year. Overall, that game taught us a couple things. Taught us our defense was amazing. I mean, yes, they had their mistakes, but they played excellent that game. They gave up some big plays, but look how long they were on the field. But it also taught us our offense had a lot of work, and we saw that throughout the year. As the year kept going, as the other 11 games happened, we saw our offense needing more work, needing more help, needing to execute better. So that's the recap from that game. It did not start off the year on a hot note. It was not great at all, really. Hopefully this year our opening day can look better. It's against an even worse challenge or even harder challenge with Georgia, much better team, but I got hopes. Hopes are high right here. Never getting this man down. So that's our thoughts on the game. Again, throughout the summer, we're going to continue having these breakdowns of our last 11 games of the season. We will continue with week 2 on an episode to be determined very soon. But we're going to take one more break. In just a minute, we're going to talk about Tracking Tuesday, our regular Tuesday segment that we end the Tuesday show with. So we'll be back in just a moment.
Guess what, guys? It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Guess what? The NBA playoffs are here. Anthony Edwards is absolutely killing it. And plus, if you're into the NHL, we got some slap shots you could bet on. The Carolina Hurricanes are in the second round right now, so I need you to go to that bad boy and check it out, because here's what new customers can get. $150. Yes, you heard that correctly. $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Let me repeat that. $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. And I'm telling you, you can bet on anything from the spreads, the money lines, player props, and much, much more. I'm telling you, $150. Oh my God, you can win some money. All you got to do is pay attention and go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. The website is FanDuel.com/locked-on, LOCKEDON, and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook.
And we're back with the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, so that's enough looking back. That's enough being a little negative, kind of being a little upset with it, everything in the past. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look forward. As we talk about every episode, almost every single episode every day, we have a breakdown. Mondays, we have our third segment is our Momentum Mondays. We talked about that yesterday. Go check out yesterday's episode for our weekly Momentum Monday. Wednesdays, Worried Wednesday. We're talking about what we're scared about, what we're nervous about. Thursdays, Turbulent Thursdays with some hot takes. Fridays are our Flashback Fridays. Well, today, Tuesdays is some of our best ones, some of our favorite ones. Tuesday is our Tracking Tuesday. And so what that is we go through and we talk about what we're tracking. We talk about different recruits. We're tracking the recruits that are happening. Today, we're all talking about football. We're focusing in on football, so we want to keep the football conversation going. And we're going to talk about what we're excited about in the future, and that is our 2026 offers. So far, after spring workouts, after everything happening, we are excited. We have a list of 2026 offers who have been offered so far. As of right now, we have 30 players who have had an offer from Dabo Swinney and Clemson heading into that class of 2026. So we're excited about it. We just want to go through, and we're going to we're not going to go into in-depth detail of all of these recruits. We will coming up soon. We will throughout the summer. But right now, we just want to talk about these 30 offers that we already have for the year 2026. So at the quarterback, right now we've offered two quarterbacks right now. One of which I'm like, one of which I'm super excited about. And that is Brady Hart of Cocoa, Florida, and then Tate Reynolds of Quinn Creek, Arizona. Tate Reynolds, we did a full breakdown of him in another episode, so make sure you go and give that a listen, give that a watch. But Tate is an exciting quarterback. He's one that I really think could take this program back to that top tier level. He's a two-sport athlete. He's committed to Arizona State to play baseball, but he's definitely leaning towards football, so excited about that. But yeah, so those are our two quarterbacks right now. Those are the two quarterbacks offered for that year. Right now, we don't have any running backs that are offered. For wide receiver, though, we have a couple. Our wide receiver coach, Tyler Grisham, he's offered Cedrin Morgan from Alabama. He also offered Benjamin Russell and Devin Carter out of Georgia. Naheem Burrows out of Jacksonville, Donovan Murph out of Columbia, Connor Salmon out of Virginia Woodrow. And so all those were a lot of players. We've offered a bunch there. We did see Carter, Burrows, and Murph got to come, and they participated in summer camp, the early summer camp with Clemson. They all three did really well. All three are something to be excited about. So that was impressive there. Offensive line, this was our first year with Coach Luke's first summer. First year happened there. He was busy. He definitely came in hot, came in trying to build this program, build this offensive line back up. And so he offered a bunch of players. He offered Darius Gray out of Richmond, Virginia, Zion Gills out of Hemingway, South Carolina, Ikian Ogboku, sorry, that was a hard name to say. Ikian Ogboku out of Garner, North Carolina. Maxwell Riley of Avon Lake, Ohio. Leo Delaney of Charlotte, North Carolina. Tyler Merrill of Pennsylvania. Fun fact, he is related to Jackson Merrill, the breakout player right now for the San Diego Padres. Carter Scruggs of Leesburg, Virginia. Grant Wise of Milton, Florida. Chancellor Barkley of Lake Minola, Florida. And Desmond Green of St. Stephen, South Carolina. Coach Lucas came in and he's already helped progress the offensive line that's currently there. He brought in some recruits for next year in 2025, and now he's offering people for 2026. So really excited to see what happens there. He did offer one of the top players overall in the class at offensive tackle. Unfortunately, he did not come to Clemson. He decided to go to another powerhouse. So that's a little bummed about that, but it's okay. We'll move on. It'll be all right. Then on the defensive side, our defensive end coach, Chris Rumpf. Also, this is his first year at Clemson on staff as the defensive end coach, and he also has a busy offseason. He's offered a couple different players. Jordan Carter out of Douglasville, Georgia. Bryce Perry Wright out of Buford, Georgia, and Deuce Geralds out of Suwanee, Georgia. And then he also went and offered a guy by the name of Jake Krull, who attended camp. He was another defensive back. He was excited to see. He was really excited to see because you got to see his speed. You got to see truly his footwork, who he is as a player. And honestly, he's one that's he's already progressed. He's one that he could come in and start. He's definitely a player that's something to be excited about. So love seeing Jake Krull over at camp a little bit ago. And then another fun fact right here, Bryce Perry Wright out of Buford, Georgia. He is the cousin of Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett was a huge part of Clemson football in his time years ago. He is now a starter player, one of the franchise players for the Atlanta Falcons. So he excited to see him over there. So defensive ends and offensive line, both of those having a busy summer so far. Excited to see that. Linebackers, Wes Goodwin, the defensive coordinator, is also the linebacker coach. He's offered a couple players. He's offered Xavier Griffin out of Gainesville, Georgia, Tyler Atkinson of Loganville, Georgia, Thomas Davis Jr. of Matthews, North Carolina, and Storm Miller of Strongsville, Ohio. One of those names might sound familiar, right? Thomas Davis Jr. of Matthews, North Carolina. Yes, that is the Thomas Davis Sr. linebacker for Carolina Panthers. That is his son. So excited to see that. Hopefully he comes, and excited to see there. Storm Miller was the only attendee that came to camp. His brother is a Clemson offensive tackle with Blake Miller. So kind of cool to see the family ties there. Sometimes people don't like that. I think it's cool. I think it shows the culture. It shows the true family atmosphere there. So linebackers, we're always good. Defensive line linebackers, we usually have a good crew there. On to the secondary. Mike Reed, the corners coach, offered two players this summer. He offered Chasten Smith out of Knoxville and Samari Matthews out of Cornelius, North Carolina. Both of them are tall cornerbacks. And I like to see that. Honestly, I like when sometimes the shorter corners, they're fast. They got a little bit more versatility, a little bit, but I like the big corners. We're becoming into a game in modern college football where wide receivers are tall, they have size, and you want a wide cornerback, not like 6'7", but you want a cornerback that can stick with them, that can jump with them, that's not just going to be mossed all over, that's not going to be like little brother syndrome, but someone that can truly compete physically with the wide receiver. So excited to see there. And then on the safety side, Mickey Kahn has offered Zealous Hicks out of Carlton, Georgia, Jazavian Currents out of Rock Hill, South Carolina, South Point High School. We used to live right outside of Rock Hill in Lake Wiley area, and man, South Point High School is they're a major program. They're someone that competes, so that's exciting. And then Xavier Larhisi out of Melbourne, Florida. All those are that's exciting. We actually got to see Hicks, Zealous Hicks, got to talk with TigerNet, who's a great, TigerNet.com has a lot of great resources, but he described himself as a versatile athlete who can play inside the box and cover receivers out wide. Talks about the vision of adding athletic safeties who can add value outside of coverage. So that was a quote from TigerNet's website, so excited to see them. But overall, that's the 30 players. Those are the 30 players that Clemson has offered for the 2026 class. Obviously, we're not going to get all 30 of those, but we should get a good amount. I'm excited about that class. I'm excited to see what happens there. In a soon episode, we're going to talk about the 2025 commits as of right now. We'll go through that and so much more in a future episode. But with all that being said, that is going to end this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, later this week, we're going to keep diving into football, keep diving into more content. But let us know your thoughts. Let us know your topics. Let us know your reactions, what we talked about. How much are you still hurting over that Clemson Duke game? Are you still having nightmares? Because I know I am. I probably will until week 1 of this year. But let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Reach out over on X. Send us an email. Drop a comment on YouTube. All that kind of stuff. We'd love to hear and have a conversation with you. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast at. Or if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button over there. That way, every day, this can be your first listen here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. We are so appreciative of all our our everydayers. We also are excited about launching a new Discord. We are going to launch a Discord in the short coming time period. We're not sure when that's going to release yet, but it's going to be very soon. That's going to be a place for all different kinds of content. So let us know what you'd like to see in that Discord as we join a community of here our everydayers on the Locked On Clemson podcast. But we can't wait to see you on tomorrow's episode. Until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, you know what to do. Go Tigers.